Welcome to the Islamic Library Association. We are dedicated to showcasing Muslims' rich contributions to literature and society while advocating for accurate representation and equity in libraries. Hello, everyone. My name is Kalisa Harris, and I am here today with Shabana Hussain. Shabana Hussain is an award winning children's author from the north of England, UK. She is passionate about proper representation of Muslims. She writes Islamic faith based picture books and hopes that they will help empower children to embrace their faith, culture, identity, and individuality. She loves to visit schools and organizations to share her journey and inspire the next generation of authors. When she's not writing, you can find Shabana with family and friends, doodling, singing, or playing her duff, which is a drum. She can also be found munching on a secret stash of chocolate goodies, which she claims fuels her imagination. So thank you so much, Shabana, for joining us this evening. How are you doing today?
Alhamdulillah, I'm good, and thank you for having me here.
No problem. We appreciate you being here. Would you like to share a bit more about yourself so that the audience can get to know you a little bit better?
Yeah, I'm actually a teacher turned children's author, so I still do a little bit of teaching here and there, a little bit of tutoring, but obviously I want to be able to focus more on my author work.
Okay. So, what made you decide to want to become an author?
Well, it wasn't something that I thought of like some do, since they were younger, they wanted to write a book, and I've always wanted to work with children. I've always wanted to be a teacher. I knew that since I was 4 years old.
Okay.
Um, but I suppose the natural storytelling because my subject is English that I do at high school, and teaching that, working with stories, books, literature, all of that's just normal. But it's really during COVID time that the the spark kind of became something a bit more and
Okay.
took it more seriously because everyone was locked in, locked down, and that kind of unlocked my creativity.
Okay. And so what would you say inspired you to write children's books or what drives your passion in writing specifically Islamic faith-based picture books?
Well, obviously, my faith is really important in order to be able to impart knowledge. We know as Muslims, when you pass knowledge on, it's sadaqah jariyah, it's like leaving a legacy behind, and we all want to obviously stack up our good deeds. And I suppose the inspiration initially would kind of came from my son because I read a lot of picture books to him. And even though the course, COVID was, many years after he was a little boy, it was still something that was obviously probably bubbling away in the background. And the fact that I had that, and I knew when reading to him that there were gaps in the market as well. So, the Sadqa Jariyah, leaving a legacy behind, seeing the gaps in the market, the need for representation and good quality Islamic books, because there were some books, but not all of them were perhaps on par with mainstream. So to kind of get parents to pick up a good quality Islamic book over, a mainstream book, the quality has to be there as well.
Correct. So, how many books have you written?
I've actually written three now, alhamdulillah.
Okay, Alhamdulillah. Can you tell us a little bit about each book?
Yeah, so Speak Up Sammy, that's my first one. Uh,
Okay.
and that's based around a boy who's quite shy and quiet and has no friends. So it's based in a school, and I thought that was a good setting because it would be quite relatable for children. And bullying is something, unfortunately, that's quite universal. So again, most children will have witnessed, whether even if it's not against themselves, to
Mhm.
themselves or to somebody maybe close, they will have witnessed somewhere, in the playground or in the classroom, someone being mean. So it was really kind of to highlight that, to say obviously this is not okay, and also to empower children to use their voice. And I never knew how important that would have become, that would become, especially in today's world, that actually speaking out is a very brave thing to do and a scary thing to do. And although I didn't mention it initially in this, in the author's note, and I mentioned obviously that it's inspired by a hadith about the Prophet ﷺ mentioning that when we see a wrongdoing, when we see something evil, that we're meant to take action and do something by using our hands. And if we can't do it by using our hands and taking action, we should use our voice. And if we can't use our voice, we should at least hate that thing in our heart. And I think most people are often in that third category, and they are finding it very difficult to use their voice, and there
Yeah.
are a few who are using their hands and actually physically taking action and doing something about it. And it's hard. And I kind of mentioned this in one of my Instagram posts, which was that actually some of the inspiration came from when I was younger. I was in the playground and I actually witnessed somebody getting bullied, and I didn't do anything at the time. And it kind of like haunts me a little bit now, even. Although I did later go and tell someone older who then intervened as well. I just, in the moment, it was scary because I thought the bully was going to turn on me. And
Yes.
I know that feeling. And I think that's part of why also, I wrote Speak Up Sammy, because it was still there and it still is, that regret of not doing anything, a bit of shame, a bit of guilt.
That's nice. That's really good for not only for children, but even for adults. Oftentimes we are afraid to use our voices and
Mhm.
things like that to defend someone. Um, like you said, afraid that the bullying may then, switch to ourselves.
Yeah.
So that's one book. What about another book you have?
The second book is Hamza Attends a Janaza. So the first one is also award winning. The second one is award winning too. I have got the seal on this one.
Mhm.
So Hamza Attends a Janaza, this came from, again, a real gap in the market. I mean, there are books on bullying, but with this one, I'd read books on grief, and some of them came from the perspective of a person, a character, a human being, and some of them were from animals' perspective. So, and there are a lot of obviously animals that are used to tell children's stories, but this one was a little bit more faith-based in terms of I really was targeting the Muslim community because I just felt that, well, across cultures and religions, I feel death is a taboo topic. We avoid it, and even though we know it's inevitable, and as Muslims, is something that we should really be focusing on as part of our Aqidah, and really preparing, because, as I said, I've mentioned to others as well, that we prepare for exams in advance, we prepare for weddings in advance, other occasions and parties, but we, instead of organizing or preparing, we don't even talk about death. So it's something that's really important, I think, that we should really get back to. And it doesn't have to be scary. Obviously death can be scary, but it doesn't have to be if you start talking about it and preparing for it. And as we know, as Muslims, we're told that we should be, as travelers in this world, we
Mhm.
should also think about, if you're awake, alive in the morning, don't think you are going to be by the evening. And that should really then help us really focus on what's important, because we can easily get lost in this world, in this dunya. And it doesn't mean we can't enjoy the dunya, but we shouldn't enjoy it at the expense of the akhirah. And we need to think about that as well.
Yes. So just for the people who may not be aware, what is janaza?
So janaza just means funeral. It's just the Arabic word for funeral. And I think when people look at the cover, I mean, they instantly know, regardless of whether they can see it's a funeral procession. And I think ev- everyone I've shown it to, they just for a few seconds, they're just quiet. And that's the impact of a really, really good cover. And
Hmm.
this is why this one's extra special for me, because I actually worked with the illustrator directly in achieving this look overall. And obviously my publisher, who made it into a lovely hardback book as well. So I just really wanted it to be a keepsake, and something that families can return to, because it's not just like Ramadan, it comes every year. We need
Yeah.
reminding, we need reminding of some of the basics of it as well, because it only comes around once a year. And similarly with death, it's not as regular even, especially if it's going to be somebody close to you. So we definitely need reminders, and I just wanted this to be one of those books that parents, families can come together and read again and again, or look to the back, which has got a lot of, which has got some helpful back matter, which would be helpful if you're a teacher or a parent.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. I mean, I know what a janaza is, and like you said, the cover explains it. But just just because, I try to make a point that, yeah, I try to make a point that Islamic faith-based literature is not only for Muslims, you
Yeah.
know. So janaza, okay, I think every Muslim knows what it is. Like you said, the cover is self-explanatory. It explains, it tells a lot about what the book is about. But I think it's just important to cross over some of those words that some people may not genuinely understand exactly. So, and also, I think that topic, like you're saying, is not discussed much, especially with children. And sometimes they're not prepared or don't know how to deal with things when that occurs close to when it's someone close to them. So I think it's a very good topic, and it's definitely needed for everyone to see because we all not only do we experience that, but we witness it, and we feel we all have feelings about it, and
And
it could be
one of the things you mentioned, sorry, is that it's not just for Muslims, and it actually got
yes,
reviewed in the New York Times. And one of the things that was said about it is that even though it's targeted at Muslims, it's actually something universal. It's something that everyone could appreciate, um, and that's really that's a bonus that everybody else will be able to talk about it as well. Because regardless of what you believe, we everyone will go through it.
yes,
And regardless of whether you believe in God, the afterlife, or any of that, it's still a good way of getting the discussion started and
hmm,
helping children understand so that they're just a little bit prepared, because kids can just get really shocked if you suddenly, and especially our funerals, they are very quick and the
yes,
ads are running around. There's a lot of, sometimes a bit chaotic, to get things done, to get the body buried. And the
mhm,
children are the last thing people are usually thinking about.
yes,
They kind of left to kind of fend for themselves. So if there's
yes,
some preparation and some discussion beforehand, I just think it would just make it really easier. I spoke to my son about it when he was about 3. That's when I started talking to him. Obviously I was drip feeding it to him in terms of uh, child-friendly language, things that he would understand. And at first, his main concern was, I don't want to leave the house. And then the next time he asked me something about it, it was, are we going to be in the same grave? And I said,
mhm,
it might be a little bit squashy, but you
mhm,
could be the one next to me, how about that? And then he kind of thought, that makes sense. Uh, and,
okay,
and that's it. So it's really interesting how children take part it. And I remember following a discussion um, on Instagram, I think it was, and people just talking about what their children were saying, and it was just really interesting. And obviously, it depends on what they've experienced as well as a family.
mhm,
I deliberately chose someone not related to the main character,
okay,
to pass away. So it's somebody in the community, and it's also to
mhm,
highlight that it's actually a communal obligation for us to attend a janaza, uh,
yes,
whether you know the person or not, and
mhm,
and the reward for that as well, which is mentioned at the back of the book. So I'm hoping that it can really benefit, more and more families as they discover the book.
definitely. So, what about your third book?
The third one is very different. I was quite nervous about this one because because it's not a heavy topic like bullying or death, and
Okay,
also it's also different in terms of the way I approached it. So this one's a rhyming one. So it's very much like it's madrasa time, woohoo. We carefully make wudu. So it's got that kind of rhythm and rhyme, but every page is a bursting with um, learning opportunities. You know what? I didn't show you the inside of the other ones, but I can do. In this one, for example, there's a bit, it says, we rush to get in the car and recite the travel dua. And in this one, the beginning of the dua is here in the speech bubble, which says Subhanallah, and then it's a discussion point for children, and then it's like, oh, we say that, and then they'll
yeah,
be talking about it, and the children get really excited, and I know that dua,
yeah,
and how they're getting. And then the first page about the wudu, how they're doing wudu, and even if the children are not going to madrasa, they see maybe their older siblings going, they can see what's happening. and yeah, there's lots going on, and there's actually both Hamza Tenza Janaza and Isma at the Time are scholar approved, and this one my publisher with this one surprised me, and Zain Bika, who a lot will know, nasheed artist, famous nasheed artist, very popular with the young ones. He features in the Salawat part of the audio book, and I'll
Mhm.
just show you the Salawat page because it's one of my favorites as well. Um, it's so you got all the kids there, and you got the teacher there.
Mm,
He's got the duff, and you got a
yeah.
reminder of why salawat is important. We got it in Arabic there, and it's so cute. And this is when I bring out my duff when I do sessions with this. I recently did a festival, a local festival, and I took out the duff and we sang some songs and Zayn Bika ones, and the kids were like really into it. But this one also is a bit interactive at the back. It's got a glossary, but then each character is telling the children to go back to a certain page and do something or discuss something. So that's quite nice as well.
That's great. So, j- very similar how I asked you what is janaza, what is madrasa?
Right, well, madrasa is just really a school. It's where the children get their Islamic knowledge, and I think it's been um, very negatively used in the media. It
Yes.
has negative connotations. And initially, how this book started was I just read a book about preschool or nursery, and as I was reading it, I just thought, why don't we have anything like this for our children who go to madrasa?
Mm-hmm.
Literally it was just what happens during the day. And I thought, well, I want many Muslims to be proud of what happens at their madrasa. And I
Yes.
also others who see the book to realize, oh, this is not scary, this is nothing weird. Um,
Yes.
so it was really to kind of bring positive connotations to the word, to kind of also take away that, you know, stigma that's attached to it, or um, oh, this is scary. Also, there's a lot of Islamophobia, as you know, on the rise, and really to kind of tackle that as well. So just that one word can do so much when it's presented in a book, presented in a colourful way, and
Uh-huh.
with cute characters. So yeah, so the characters are really, really cute. But in addition to that, the actual diversity is really, really important for me as well, and also. Here in particular, so there's a boy here which you won't be able to see very clearly, but this one here, he's called Usman, and he's actually got limb difference. So he was born with limb difference. And one of my friend's sons has got limb difference. He was born like that. And when he saw the book, he just went, Mom, I'm on the front cover. He was so excited. So, and another girl here, she's got vitiligo. And one of my friends said that her son who has severe eczema, he was quite drawn to that character. I was just looking at her first. And we have obviously we've got a boy in a wheelchair here. Now I don't think very many mosques are accessible, and one of the reasons I included this character was hopefully just to kind of start that discussion in families, and why don't we have that, and we should have accessibility. And then there's a little boy, again, you might not be able to see clearly, but he's got a hearing aid, and again, another one of my friends, her son's got a hearing aid, and he just felt really seen and heard as well, represented. So that I've had a lot of comments about the diversity and also the representation through the different characters, and there's some of the characters are on the back as well, so very cute.
Yeah, lovely. I love it. I love it. Just those little simple things that have a huge impact by using, pretty much showing the true definition of what some Arabic words mean instead of having, like you said, those negative connotations about them. So it's madrasa time. Okay, the children are having fun. They're learning. So that's great. And
And
also the diversity within Islam itself. Everyone's not a one blanket person. So
yeah, because everybody, I mean, as you know, a lot of people just think Muslims are brown. That's it. And we've got a mixture here of characters. And also, in the UK, there's an organisation called the Book Trust, and there's a lot of information on there about books, reading, and how to bond over books with families, and a lot of advice, tips, recommendations. And one of the things I remember also was that when we mention disability or show a character with disability, it doesn't always have to be about their disability. The story doesn't have to be about them, And I think sometimes we make it so that everything doesn't have to be tragic. Everything doesn't, and it can just be in the background. It can, and it shows that. So one of the reasons I put in the boy in the wheelchair was also just to show the accessibility, because when they go into the madrasa, um, just in that one obviously is quite visual. You can see that he's got a visual disability there, but also when they go to the madrasa, there's a ramp, so the actual the mum's taking him up over the ramp, and it was just something I remember discussing with, I don't know whether it was with my niece or another child, but just to say, oh look, everybody's going in through the front entrance. Can you see, is this boy going through the front entrance as well? And then it was just something to discuss. So there are so many things going on in the background, and every illustration, every page, was thought about in so much detail about what it could be. Because in my head, obviously, I've got my teacher's hat on as well, and I'm thinking, how could this benefit a teacher if they are discussing the topic? I've got one page which has got the names of Allah on it, and the kids are doing an activity. And that could be a whole lesson, you know.
Yes.
Another one with the bee, just mentioning the buzzing of the bee, and then Allah's creatures in the sea. So that's
Yes.
all about Allah being Al Khaliq, the creator, and there's so much we could talk about with the children. And I just hope, inshallah, that it gives parents an easy way to introduce topics, and fun way, and also just a lot of learning opportunity. And this is why books are so special. Picture books are special because not only are we it's a Sadqa Jariyah, because I've worked on it, but anyone who's worked on it with me, whether it's my illustrator, my publisher, editor, everybody who's involved, because it really does take a village to get picture books out. They're not easy, even though people may think so, even because they look simple. Um, but everybody involved in that process, and including anyone who buys it, anyone who passes the message on saying this book exists,
Yeah.
everyone has got a share in that reward, in that sadaqah jariyah, inshallah, and may it weigh heavy on their scales on the day of judgment, inshallah.
Yes. So you have three amazing books. Can you tell us about some awards that you have earned?
Yes, so I mentioned with Speak Up Sammy, yeah, I had some seals. I don't think I put all of the seals on, and then I've got, I think it's on the seal on the shelf on that one. And then I got this plaque as well, which is really lovely. And it says Strange Incorporated Book Awards winner 2023, Speak Up Sammy by Shabana Hussain. So that was really nice. And that's in
Congrats.
2023. And then also in 2023, I got the Daybreak Press Book Awards, and that's the same seal that's on the book as well. But yes, that's a nice little medal. It's nice to show this to the children when I do author visits, when I visit schools.
Mhm.
Um, so really proud of those, and so that's a nice point to kind of, like I said, share with the children. They get really excited and looking at all the different things. And with Hamza Attends a Janaza, because of the topic being a bit heavy, I decided to work with a company called Up Creative Design to do beautiful dolls, handcrafted by artisans in Turkey. And I had a little Hamza doll made. So he's absolutely this took nearly a year for us to get to this point, and he is
Oh,
just like so adorable. And I think
yeah.
grief toys grief toys can really help children when they're experiencing something difficult. Sometimes children hold teddies or other things or blankets, and I
Yes.
just thought this would help make reading Hamza Tenza Janaza, I think it's really really good, and it's a nice little gift to give as well if you had it. So I thought that was cute, and it's just so beautifully done. So there's only a few of these that I had made, but I just wanted that as a maybe I might get some more dolls made with other books, but for now, I mean books can be expensive to get done, but
Yes.
also merchandise it's always lovely to have. Um, but yeah, but this one was just something really cute, and I really wanted a little Hamza doll. And we've got one.
And,
I think we've got one standing there. He's actually waving a Palestinian flag there.
um, so you have some amazing books. You've done obviously great. I mean, you won awards. You have some book merch. But what, can you tell us the reason or what you hope to convey to children from your books?
Yeah, well, obviously, imparting some sort of Islamic knowledge, whether it's in a really, really overt way or covert way or subtle way, that's going to be my one of my main things, and having that sadqa jariyah, passing on knowledge. But also really building empathy and kindness, because as we know, many authors will have heard and are aware of, or the publishing industry is that book should be mirrors, windows, and sliding doors.
Yeah.
And obviously, with representation, we need our children to see themselves in books. They need to be mirrors, because it is such a powerful thing. We didn't have it when we were growing up. I see it even when I see a picture book now. I can get very emotional as an adult, because I just think, oh, I feel seen and heard. I'm in my 40s now. And if children are seeing it from an early age, and they
Hmm.
have to see it on repeat, they've got to see it a lot in order for them to actually internalize it and then see that they matter in this world, to know that they matter, their lives matter, their experiences matter, their stories matter. Because even though I did read Islamic books to my son, he never really wrote about Islamic characters in his stories, because
Yeah.
it's still not enough. He hasn't seen it enough. He's not immersed in that environment enough to then believe it's okay to write about it as well. There's one thing reading about it and seeing it, but actually taking that step and feeling like just being given the permission to say, yeah, write about it. So it's okay to include characters with Muslim names. It's all right to include uh, experiences of a Muslim character. So, we have the author Zainab Mian. She's done it very well, and done very well successfully with her self-publishing and in the mainstream as well. So I'm really glad that we've got characters like that coming. And obviously there's other authors as well, but obviously she's a UK one, so the first one that sprung to mind. Um, so it's incredibly important for them to be seen, and then it's also really important, obviously, for them to have access to stories that are different to their cultures, and to their experiences as well. So that's obviously your windows looking through, into another world. And then the sliding doors is where, they are transformed into another experience, and having that empathy and kindness. So with Speak Up Sammy, you've got I've got the new character that comes in that actually helps trigger, that voice in Sammy, is Gamba. Now, Gamba's from Zimbabwe. And one of the things that I wanted to achieve in Speak of Sammy as well is to have that kind of, um, to break that little bit of ignorance about African countries, because they just think Africa and they lump it all together.
Yes.
And, um, and I just thought at that time I was working with, on my stories during COVID time. I was on a 6 week, program, and it was Naima B. Roberts, and Naima B. Roberts is has got Zimbabwean roots. So I think maybe because she was there and that was in the forefront of my mind. And the only other thing I knew about Zimbabwe was cricket, because my brothers were really into cricket, right? So I thought, I'm ignorant too, as in I don't know too much. So I decided to have a character that came from Zimbabwe, and it would just open up something, because you don't really see Zimbabwe being, a lot of African countries being represented. So
Yes.
picked one that that sprung to my mind. I know it was at the forefront of my mind, and then I included a character. And I thought, again, that would give. I mean, that could be a whole geography lesson. And I do, when I go into schools, I've done workshops with Speak Up Sammy. There's quite a lot you can take out from it. So um, I did a drama workshop on, using your voice and being in a dilemma, and then we did one on geography in terms of Zimbabwe, what the country's about, and did you know that one of the seven wonders of the world is actually in Zimbabwe? So all these really, really interesting things, and we looked at the flag and what the flag represents, and some of the words that he uses and the language that's spoken there, and that people don't really think. Oh, they think that English is not a language, but it's actually one of the main languages. But there's also the language Shona as well. Um, and this is something that I mentioned in the glossary too. So the few words in there, um, that Gamba uses, and then they're translated in the back as well. And I asked the children, "What do you think this word? What do you think this word means?" And it's a word for grandma, and it's really nice. And then I said, "Oh, what do you call your grandma?" And then it just opens up all this lovely discussion. And the fact that some of the children who are bilingual are a little bit embarrassed sometimes to even say that. But when I talk about it in such a passionate way, to say, I can't believe, wow, that's so amazing. Even if you can't speak the second language
Yes.
fluently, the fact that you can understand it is an amazing skill. And then you see that the eyes light up a little bit and they feel a little bit confident to put their hands up. And obviously, the schools I visit where there are Muslim students or South Asian students, they feel obviously a little bit more seen when they see me and think, okay, this is somebody who is like us,
Mhm.
telling us that it's okay to be the way we are and have our
Yeah.
experiences and have the language that we have. And so identity, culture, food, all of this can come out just from Speak Up Sammy. There's so much to discuss. So I love visiting schools with that. So that's been the main book that I've visited schools with. Um, so that's been really nice.
That's great. So, how are your books published?
Well, both Speak Up Sammy and Hamza Tens Janaza are published through Q Publishing, the
Okay.
Islamic Foundation.
Mhm.
So obviously I sent off my stories, and then they took over. So with Speak Up Sammy, Q Publishing, um, they dealt with everything.
Mhm.
Obviously, they informed me of updates and things that were going on, but ultimately it's the publisher and they deal with all of that. So it's kind of like not a lot of headache on you on the author. Um,
Mhm.
but if you want creative control, then obviously you'd have to get involved a bit more. Maybe your approach might be different. So with Hamza Tenza Janaza, I did want some creative control. I really wanted to choose the illustrator. I really wanted to work with the illustrator on every page. So I started that journey initially thinking, I don't know how this is going to end, but I know that I want to work with the illustrator. And then once I finished working with the illustrator, I thought, that's it. I don't want to do anything after this. I'm not business minded. I don't want to get involved in all the other stuff. So um, Q Publishing liked the story. They liked who I chose with, for the illustrator, and therefore they continued. And because I think because I'd obviously already worked with me with Speak Up Sammy, it was an
Mhm.
easy way to kind of work on the second story with them like that. And alhamdulillah, they made it into a really lovely book. And because they're a publisher that's been established for a while, and they're an independent publisher, so
Okay.
I could obviously directly send my manuscript over without having to have a agent like you do for mainstream publishing. Um,
Mhm.
and they actually also have, obviously a lot of links with other countries and bookshops, and they
Mhm.
actually also managed to get the rights with an Indonesian publisher, and both Speak Up Sami and Hamza Tens Janaza have been translated into Bahasa.
Nice.
So that was really lovely. And I remember it was Hamza Tens Janaza caught their attention first. It's called
Mhm.
Yomi Kids, the publisher, and I think it was over 4,000 pre-orders that came through, and it was really popular. So I was really, really happy with that. And yeah, and I also did like a little talk with them. We had a Zoom session so that the parents could feel at ease because, again, I think people initially think, oh my God, it's so scary. How are we going to talk about this? But everyone who's read it has said it's very gentle. Even a doctor, um, she mentioned as well how it was really gentle and sensitive, and it's not really heavy. It kind of just skims the surface of it's just a gentle introduction to what an Islamic funeral is about. I'm hoping that obviously that families will take the discussion where it needs to be, um,
Yes.
according to their own situation.
Yes. So, what about it's madrasa time?
That hasn't. So the year that I could have put that in for an award, I was judging that category myself for Strange Incorporated. So I was a judge for 2024. So I didn't enter my booking.
Gotcha. Okay. So, are your books available in public libraries?
I think in the UK, I think Speak Up Sammy is. I'm not 100% sure because what I realized was they don't just put them in the libraries. They just there's got to be a request. There's got to be a request for it. Because I
Mhm.
remember when my Speak Up Sammy first got published, I thought it was going to be one of my local shops, and I'm there running into the shop thinking it's going to be there, and I'm like, oh, okay, because I could see it online, and
Okay.
that, but not in the shops. And what I found also is that even in with mainstream books, not every mainstream book is going to be in the bookshops. They select, which ones they're going to have.
Mhm.
They select which ones they're going to have for window displays. Um, yeah, so
Yeah. So that. it's in the UK, it's a similar process, just like here in America, you know.
Yeah.
So that's where the Islamic Library Association comes in, to be able to create policies, to pretty much address the concerns of the Muslims specifically, including our literature, programs, services, things like that that are available within libraries who are who claim to be equitable. So, um, you're like you said, you don't have to auto. I mean, the books are not automatically going into the libraries. That's everywhere, and that's the point. But it's also that not only is every book not going to be in the library, but Islamic literature is not primarily even presented to be selected to be into the library. So that's where the Islamic Library Association comes in to be able to get the books presented, to be selected, to be in the libraries, to be able to have displays of them and things like that. So it's a lot of processes and steps and things like that, but it all works out. So like right now, most of the books that are included in library collections are from the top five publishing companies, and those top five publishing companies are not that big on um, accurately and adequately representing Islamic literature. So you do a lot. You do a lot. You've done a lot. It's great. I definitely personally um, congratulate you for your efforts and your contributions to the whole literary landscape, and allowing your books to honestly just represent Islam in a positive light for children, especially. And you even touch topics that are very, you use the word heavy, but, I'd say just not that touched. It's not discussed as often as perhaps it should be. So, with all of that, you're also a teacher, you're a mom, so what's next for you right now? What projects are you working on? I know you said you take notes and take classes to advance or enhance your skills. Is there anything specific that you're working on that you'd like to share with us?
Well, I'm still working on picture books, but I
Okay.
would also like to be able to write something a little bit longer in the chapter books kind of
Okay.
category, or
Okay.
early chapter books, because I know how it feels to move from picture books to chapter books or longer books, and
Mm-hmm.
kids need that confidence. So things like paired reading, is really good to get that confidence going. So I'd like to be able to write something a little bit longer than a picture book, not
Mm-hmm.
quite a novel. I'm not quite there yet. I don't think I could commit to anything like that. But I hope so I can, because I just think we have got a lot in the picture book category now growing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the early chapter books, the middle grade, we definitely need more in that category, I think.
Inshallah, that'll work out. We look forward to whatever your next book is. We'd love to know about it. Keep us updated. But do you have any suggestions for any new or aspiring Muslim authors?
Yeah, definitely just firstly make dua if it's something that you want to do,
Mm-hmm.
and then read a lot about the topics that you want to write about, because I think because the process is now easy where you can self-publish, um, I think some people think it is that easy and they may end up um, sometimes cutting corners. And I think, we can't allow the low quality kind of books coming in, because, we've had that. And if we want to raise standards, we've got to do things properly. We've got to do things with ihsan. And that means reading around your topic, reading lots of books, doing courses where you can. I mean, everything doesn't have to cost. You can do as many free things as you possibly can. Look out for those, follow people that, inspire you. Um, and then where necessary, you need to invest, because, you can tell when someone hasn't used their time to edit a book. I remember seeing a book by a Muslim author, and I thought, you know what, it looks really lovely that she's on this topic. Ordered it, and especially when they self-publish, they can be quite expensive as well because they're trying to make back obviously what they put in. Um, and it was just riddled with so many typos. I couldn't get past it. I couldn't read past a few pages because I had to keep stopping and starting, and it really, really impacted obviously that kind of. It just impacted the whole experience, and I think that this is what makes people then think, well, we won't buy a Muslim authored book.
Yeah.
And in order for us to get people to, move towards buying that, or at least in balance with the mainstream books, we've got to raise standards and we can't let that drop.
It's kind of a double-edged sword because a lot of the big publishing companies won't accept those manuscripts and they will self-publish and then say, oh well, it's not good enough. So it's kind of like a catch-22. So
Yeah.
hopefully that'll get better and we can improve and again have the Islamic Library Association be able to make sure that all of the T's are crossed and I's are dotted to be able to have, books that represent us properly, accessible to everyone. So, last but not least, where can people find your work?
Well, I've got a website, so it's just simply my name, shabanahussain.co.uk,
Mhm.
and you can also find it on Q Publishing, and also it's Madrasa Time is published by dreamsandduas.com.
Mhm.
So Speak Up Sammy and Hamza are both by qpublishing.com, and it's Madrasa Time by dreamsandduas.com. But obviously my website has the links to each book anyway. You can
Mhm.
also sign up to my newsletter via my website, so you can stay up to date with things going on. I send it out monthly, so I don't bombard. So hopefully that's something that people interested in my work and just generally want to follow an author. That's fine. You can sign up there, and I always love to hear from people. So by all means, contact me, send me a message, even if it's like I saw your book, or or send me an image if you've got a book of mine. And I love to hear. I don't think people realize how excited authors will get, and it'll make their day just by sending them a message or a picture of, maybe the a book of theirs is on your bookshelf. That's
Mhm.
exciting. Or your child's reading the book, you don't have to show their face, of course, you could just have it over their face,
Mhm.
but just things like that can make my day. And to think that something that I worked on is benefiting others or giving others joy, that's a really lovely feeling.
That's good. That's good. Well, everyone, please go ahead and follow Shabana, her work, and get her books. And Shabana, I want to thank you so much for joining us this evening. And I wish you the best of luck in all of the rest of your literary goals and adventures and plans. And hopefully, we'll get to see your books in libraries soon.
Inshallah. Thank you so much for having me and giving me the opportunity to speak about my books, because I could speak about them all day long.
I understand. So hopefully everyone can continue and have access to reading your books. And I look forward to seeing you soon.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu
Wa alaikum salam. Join the Islamic Library Association, and together we can shape a more inclusive future for literature.